In this video, we're going through how you build out your YouTube studio so you go from this to something more like this or something more like this. So if you want to do more of the artificial lighting with the colors in the background, or you want to do more of a daylight studio, I'm going to go through the different things that I do to be able to create my YouTube sets, and I have 2 sets built here in one space. All right, guys, let's get after it. So guys, if you're new here to this channel, my name is Jeven Dovey. I do a lot of filmmaking tutorials, product reviews. I also do a lot of YouTube training. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications if you want to learn how to grow your channel and get better using your camera. So originally I just had the one set built in this room, and it's been evolving over time. And that's something that you need to think about when you're going about creating your set that you're gonna use for your YouTube videos. It's not gonna be perfect the first time you set it up and you get going. You're gonna keep evolving this over time. Originally, I started with my artificial looking set. It has a lot of colored backgrounds. Let's just go over there. And this set I use all the time to create my online courses, to create tutorials, but there's a lot of times where I don't want to just be sitting here talking to camera. So this is a good setup that I've built for this style of content. But when I want to like show a product, or I want to be more involved with the things that I'm working on, have a little bit wider shot, that's why I built the other set with the standing table. So you have to kind of think, what kind of videos are you going to be creating? And that's going to dictate what style of set that you want to build. Now, like I said, this is more artificial lighting. So I have completely blocked out all of the light in this room. And as you can see over here, this is my window. And so I've put a piece of Dovey across my entire window. And that means that all the light in this room I have put in here. So everything has a purpose. Whereas when you go to my other set, I'm gonna pull this off. Now, I didn't turn off the colored lights back there, but this is more of the natural daylight studio. So I used light from the window, and then I have one light to fill in my face so I have a nice look on my face. So we're gonna talk about the lighting, and then I'm also gonna just talk about camera placement, audio, things like that. For this video specifically, I'm using a lav mic. That's the one that's on my shirt right now, and I'm actually just using a little audio recorder. So this is my Tascam DR10, but the DR10 is an audio recorder, and I use this all the time because you can see your levels on it, and you can actually just record and then sync it up later in post. So I have 4 cameras going. I have 1, 2, which are my 2 cameras I use for my sets. I've got my 360 camera back here, and then I have a 4th camera, which is my Nikon, and I'm using this just to give you guys some details as I walk around, so I can point out specific things and be able to show you guys exactly what I am doing instead of having to cut and do some B-roll. I'm gonna shoot another video on how I create videos faster using multicamming, and that's essentially what I'm doing with this workflow. Okay, so let's get into the set build. Like I said earlier, I have Dovey. That is this black material. It cuts out all light. Now, Dovey is great for covering windows. And so what I've done is created eyelets on the Dovey. And you can see right here, I've made these myself and just used a little command strip hook to attach it to the wall. And so for me, that makes it super easy, so I can just hang this up anytime that I want to put the black on the window and cut out all the light. Now, I've also put up the hooks here on this side. And the reason for that is I've done it in the past different backdrops here, so I don't have to pull out like stands, and I don't have to pull out like a bunch of gear to be able to put up a backdrop. And I have a bunch of these cloth backdrops. So if I wanted to do, say, like more of a brick background, and I've used this for different videos, then this works great. I put eyelets in this as well and hung it up on the wall. So one room can have multiple purposes. And I think using your room multi-purpose makes it so that you can have more flexibility in the content that you're shooting. I do a lot for my office, so I enjoy having the flexibility of building out different sets here. Now let's talk about lighting. So I use an Aperture 120D. That is my main light right here. That provides all of the fill light on your face. And so I put that at about a 45-degree angle from the camera. So I have my camera, my GH5 right in front of me. Right off to the side is my Aperture 120D. And you can see that I just have this sitting here, and it's always put up. I never tear this down. Super easy. I put an egg crate on it, and what the egg crate does is it focuses the light a little more. So if you take the egg crate off, what happens is the light floods further around the room. So I always use an egg crate so that it focuses more of the light on me, less on the background. The idea is that you want to create different pools of light. So where I'm at, this section, that's one pool of light. And when you're lighting the background, you want to think of that as a separate pool of light, because you could do different things in the background. You could put different colors, different exposures. You can bring up the ambience, bring down the ambience, and it will change the feel and the look of how your whole space works. But if you're relying on your one light to do everything, or like two lights, and this is also controlling your background, then it's going to be a lot harder to get the look that you want. So I always say independently control your space where your subject is, and then your background, and try to create two pools of light. And that's the easiest way to think about it when it comes to building out like a YouTube set, is think in those terms. What is the background? Expose for that, and then expose for your subject, you, and expose for that to match the background or be a little bit darker or a little bit brighter, however you want that exposure difference to be in your shot. And this is something you can start looking at when you're watching other YouTubers, is look at their set. Is their set darker than their subject, or is their set brighter? Are they in a big, bright open space, or is it a very dark space and the subject is lit brighter? Or are they equal? Because you could also do that where they match perfectly. Okay, so let's talk about my background. I have just these simple strips behind my desk, which creates the color of light. These are cheap, they're like 20, 30 bucks, and it just changes color based on whatever you want to do. So I got a remote here, and I can change, I can change it orange, change it purple, can do white. So these are good if you want to create pops of color in the background. Now, another way you can do this is using these small lights. So this is the vlogger light, and the other one that I have, which is illuminating my YouTube award right now, is the Pilot Fly Atom Cube RX1. Two good options. I actually like both of these lights. I like the Pilot Fly a little bit more for the options that you get in the light. However, this does come with a nice mount, which allows you to hook it to basically anything. So you gotta pick your poison, what you like better. So when it comes to this light, you can change the colors. So I'm gonna change to, now I got a blue. I'm gonna put it at 100% brightness. Let's change the color a bit. So as you can see, I am changing the color. So let's say I put this in the background. Let's go to a bright like pink or something. There we go, we'll do a purple. So now you can create the entire color of your background just using one of these little lights. And these things are super powerful. So as you can see, this two pools of light is working very well because I am still lit properly for the exposure for this camera, but I've just added this purplish blue light in the background, which is creating the crazy color all over in the background. So if you want color, either use LED strips, which are these things that are on my desk, or pick up one of these lights, the Vlogger or the Pilot Fly, and you can change any color. So let's see, there's pink, there's red, we got some yellow, green. So you can really just play around and create whatever color you want. And something like this, you can literally just throw it on the floor and it illuminates the entire background. And as long as you have that separation of the foreground and the background, you can create different color effects using this. So for me, I have my background being a big picture, which is essentially just, it was on a mirror. I don't know why I'm still using this color. And you're probably wondering why I just stuck white up here. I'm bringing up the general ambience of the room. So if I didn't have this on, when I'm sitting over here at my desk, it's actually a little bit too dark in the background. So I personally like bringing up the ambience a tad. So something else to think about is playing with those levels of ambience in the background. So let's talk about my backdrop. I had two mirrors here originally. I got this picture, I just got it off Amazon, and it fits my brand. So you gotta think about when you're creating your YouTube studio, what's going to fit your brand. So for me, outdoors, mountains, I do a lot of climbing films. If you haven't seen my most recent climbing film, I highly suggest you go check that out. But that fits my brand. I do a lot of climbing, so I wanted to get a mountain. So I got this, it's just a sticker. And you can put these on walls, you can put these on mirrors, anything. That's how I created this image. It gives some nice depth to the background. And then my closet, which is where I house all my gear, this is essentially all of my gear. It makes it organized so I can just grab things that I need. Switch pod. If you haven't got a switch pod yet, maybe you should get one. I actually just put a little discount code in the description, so if you guys want to get one, you can get it for $10 off. Bunch of other stuff. One of the most important things is a label maker. I do use this all the time. But instead of having just like a blank background, I decided to put my gear back there. The idea is to create some depth. So instead of just flat walls, I'm trying to create more depth in my space. So it feels like there's more going on. Obviously, you don't want to have it too cluttered, but having some depth. So you see this a lot of times, people will put gear and stuff in the background. You just need to find out what works best for your space. For me, I had this closet, so I built out shelves and I put all my gear on it, but you might need to add something into your room. Like you might need to add some shelving units so that you can add some depth moving upwards. Because you gotta think about it. You don't want just things on the ground around you. You want to build up as well. You want to be able to build out your whole space so it feels like you're in this environment, so that you're hanging out in my space. This is like my creator lab, and that's kind of how you want to feel. What does your creator lab look like? What does your space look like? And if you look at someone like Casey Neistat, he had that space in New York, and that was like a mad scientist for creators. And so like you really got into his space and you had all this texture and all this depth, but that was his brand. So what is on brand for you? What is going to be in the background that fits the content that you're creating? All right, let's move on to set number 2. And this is my more daylight looking set. This is where I'm able to have a table in front of me and work with different products. I was just shooting a review about this whole gimbal ring. My wife decided to print something while I'm shooting. But I was just doing a review on this, so this is a good space where I can have things laid out in front of me and be able to work with a camera that's a little bit further. So this is not an arm's reach away. I'm using a 35mm lens equivalent because I'm on GH5, so it's a 17.5. But I have distance. I can't really see the screen over here. So what I have is a monitor. My Atomos Shinobi is great for seeing what's going on over there. So I add a monitor so that I don't have to be next to the camera to see focus, exposure, all of that. This is a quick release that Zhiyun makes. Zhiyun, however you want to say it. And I put these on all of my mounting points. So I could just pop these on and off. They're metal and they're super easy to attach things like monitors, clamps, anything. They're essentially made for tripods on the bottom of gimbals, and that's what I think they were originally intended for, but I've found that these little clamps are useful all over the studio. So anytime you need to mount something and you don't want to have to screw it all the time, you add one of these mounting points, it just pops on and off. Now, the way that I've set up audio in this room is that I have a microphone above me. Now I do this for both of my sets. I only have one of these microphones. It's the next thing I need to add is another mic, so I have 2. But that essentially allows me to have the mic at the perfect position above my head. I use a Sennheiser mic. These things sound really good, and you can see the difference. Here's the sound of the lavalier, and now here is the sound of the mic overhead. And over there, it's a little bit better with terms of reverb because I'm not projecting out into the room. Are you coming in?
We have to fill out the application.
Okay, come say hi.
Hi.
So I'm explaining how my room is set up. So do you want to give an explanation?
Can you pause? I need him to take care of something real quick.
Now something else that I do is, you can see this over here. I have some more stands laying around out in the background here. I got another C stand here. And I have these stands laying around so that I can do more in this space. Like if I want to put a camera above, I can rig it up so that I can have a top-down shot. So having some different pieces on hand makes it easier so that if you're like, hey, I need to grab this shot, you have the gear sitting around, you can grab it and get your shot. The same reason I have my closet set up in this way where I have all the gear accessible, everything's labeled so that I can just grab gear, do my shoot, throw it back, and I'm not spending tons and tons of time fumbling with gear, because over time it does get frustrating. So in terms of lighting in this daylight space, I use an Aperture 120D. I'm telling you, these lights with the small softbox on the egg crate, That is like the best light I've found for this style of creating content. You don't need that huge softbox. The small one works. You're just illuminating one person, and then you use other lights to bring in some other lighting around your space. The 120D is lighting for me, but the lighting in the background is all from my window. So I play with my blinds and the different amount of light, and I use my blinds to control how much light I want in the background. So more of a daylight looking studio. And if you have a space where you get direct sunlight coming into your room, maybe you have the sun peeking through your blinds and it creates a nice pattern on the back wall, use that to your advantage, because having some texture in the background with lighting looks really good. So look at ways that you can use the natural sunlight to bring some texture into the background. Now, one thing that you want to avoid is just putting yourself in front of a window and then having the background fall to black. Now, that is a great way to get started and just illuminating your face, because when you stand at a window, it's gonna give you the best looking light. It's gonna give you light looking like this. However, if you just have the light fall off to black in the background, it just doesn't look that good. This is a great place to start. However, this is much harder to control than if you are to illuminate yourself using lighting and then controlling your background by bringing up the ambience or bringing down the ambience. And so that's why I don't use windows to light myself. Weather conditions change, the look changes. And so that's why I like to use my 120Ds to control the light on me. And then if I have anything in the background, I'm gonna use my blinds or the other lighting that I have to control that. So when it really comes down to it, there's a few things that you need to think about when you're creating your YouTube set. One is your brand. What is your brand, and does your set show off your brand? The second thing to think about is lighting. And think about it in two pools of lighting. So front pool, back pool. And you don't have to be super crazy with the lighting that you're using. I use one light frontal to light me, and then I use some different lights in the background to give it some texture, to give it something a little bit different. So think colored lights if you like that look, or think using a window or another small light to bring up the ambience. So guys, links to everything that I use is down in the description. So if there's anything that you specifically want from my setup, I'll put everything down there in my kit so you guys can check out every piece that I use. And guys, make sure you go down in the comments and let me know what you're using for your YouTube background. Is there anything specific that you use that's different than mine? Or is there anything specific that you really like that has really worked for you creating the content on your channel? All right, guys, if you want to see more videos on how to create better content on YouTube, I'll put a link right here on the screen somewhere. And also, I've got a bunch of resources down in the description of different playlists on how to grow your channel and take your brand to the next level. I'll see you guys on the next one.